For 40 years, nobody knew the truth about how Michael Jackson really got discovered. Diana Ross kept the secret until her final interview. Michael had defied his father's strict orders, snuck out at midnight, and performed at a place Joe Jackson had forbidden him from entering. When Diana heard him sing, she did something that had never happened in Motown history. It was October 15th, 1968, a Tuesday night that would change the course of music history forever. But before we get to what Diana Ross did that night, you need to understand why 10-year-old Michael Jackson was willing to risk everything, including the brutal punishment he knew would come if his father found out. The Blue Note was not a place for children. Located on the outskirts of Gary, Indiana, it was a jazz club where steel workers went to forget their troubles, where musicians played until dawn, and where Joe Jackson had explicitly forbidden any of his children from ever setting foot. "That place will corrupt your souls," Joe had told his sons, his belt in hand to emphasize the point. "Any Jackson I catch near that place will wish they were never born." But Michael had heard something that made him willing to risk his father's wrath. Sarah Mitchell, the cleaning lady at Roosevelt High School where the Jackson 5 practiced, had whispered to him after rehearsal, "Diana Ross is coming to the Blue Note. Secret visit. She's scouting for Motown." Michael's heart had nearly stopped. Diana Ross was everything he dreamed of becoming: glamorous, talented, beloved. The Supremes were at the height of their fame, and Diana was the brightest star in the Motown constellation. If she could just hear him sing, really hear him, not as part of the Jackson 5 where his brothers overshadowed him, but alone, raw, real, maybe she would understand what nobody else seemed to see. That he wasn't just another kid in a family band. He was something special. The problem wasn't just Joe's prohibition. The Blue Note had a strict 21 and over policy. Michael was 10 years old, barely 4.5 feet tall, with the face of an angel and the voice of something otherworldly. How could he possibly get in? The answer came from the most unexpected source: his mother, Katherine. Katherine Jackson knew her son better than anyone. She saw how he practiced in front of the mirror when he thought no one was watching, how he sang in his sleep, how music seemed to flow through his veins like blood. She also knew what Joe's discipline had cost Michael: the nightmares, the stutter that appeared whenever Joe entered a room, the way Michael flinched at sudden movements. That Tuesday afternoon, while Joe was at the steel mill for his shift, Katherine pulled Michael aside. "I know about tonight," she whispered, and Michael's blood ran cold. But then she pressed something into his hand, a key and a piece of paper. "This is the service entrance key to the Blue Note. My cousin Marcus works in the kitchen. The paper has the words to a song Diana Ross has been looking for. A song only you can sing, the way it needs to be sung." Michael looked at the paper. It was "Who's Loving You" by Smokey Robinson, but with handwritten notes in the margins, vocal arrangements that were far more complex than anything the Jackson 5 had ever attempted. "Mama, if Daddy finds out—" "He won't," Katherine said firmly. "He's working a double shift tonight. You'll be back before dawn. But Michael, baby, this is your chance. Don't let fear steal your destiny." That night, Michael waited until his brothers were asleep. Jermaine snored softly in the bed next to his, and Marlon mumbled in his dreams. Michael slipped out of bed, still wearing his clothes under his pajamas. He had memorized the route to the Blue Note from the school janitor's descriptions: 7 blocks north, 3 blocks east, through the abandoned lot behind the steel mill. The October air was sharp and cold, and Michael's breath came out in small clouds as he ran through the empty streets. Every shadow looked like Joe. Every car sound made him want to turn back, but he kept going, driven by something stronger than fear. The Blue Note's service entrance was exactly where his mother had said it would be. The key turned smoothly in the lock, and Michael slipped inside. The kitchen was dimly lit, empty except for Marcus, a tall man with kind eyes who looked like an older version of Katherine. "You must be Michael," Marcus whispered. "Your mama called."
Diana Ross is in the main room.
"She's incognito. Nobody knows it's her except the owner. You've got one chance, kid. There's a small stage in the back corner where new artists try out. I'll create a distraction, and you get up there and sing like your life depends on it. Michael nodded, his hands shaking as he clutched the paper with the song lyrics, though he knew every word by heart. The main room of the Blue Note was like nothing Michael had ever seen. Thick smoke hung in the air, mixing with the smell of whiskey and perfume. Round tables were scattered throughout, each one lit by a small lamp that created pools of golden light in the darkness. On the main stage, a jazz quartet was playing something smooth and melancholic, and there in the far corner, sitting alone at a table with her back to the wall, wearing a simple black dress and dark sunglasses despite the dim lighting, was Diana Ross. Michael's legs felt like water. This was really happening. Diana Ross was 20 feet away from him, sipping what looked like champagne, her fingers tapping along to the jazz rhythm. She looked smaller in person, more human, but somehow that made her even more magnificent. Marcus suddenly dropped a tray of glasses in the kitchen, and everyone turned to look. In that moment of distraction, Michael slipped onto the small corner stage. There was just a microphone and a spotlight that wasn't turned on. He stood there in the darkness, a 10-year-old boy in his older brother's jacket that hung past his knees, about to risk everything. Michael grabbed the microphone and began to sing, a cappella, his voice cutting through the jazz quartet like a blade through silk. When I had you, I treated you bad and wrong, my dear. The jazz quartet stopped playing. Conversation ceased mid-sentence. Every head in the Blue Note turned toward the corner where this impossible voice was coming from. The spotlight operator, shocked into action, quickly illuminated the small stage, revealing Michael. And girls, since you've been gone, Michael's voice did something supernatural in that moment. It wasn't just singing, it was pure emotion transformed into sound. Every note carried the weight of an old soul who had lived 1,000 lifetimes. Impossible coming from a 10-year-old boy. Diana Ross's champagne glass stopped midway to her lips. She slowly removed her sunglasses, and even from across the room, Michael could see tears beginning to form in her eyes. Don't you know I sit around with my head hanging down? Michael closed his eyes and let the music take him. This wasn't about Joe or the Jackson 5 or even getting discovered. This was about the truth that lived inside him, the truth that demanded to be heard. And I wonder who's loving you. The note Michael hit on you was something that shouldn't have been possible. It was high, pure and powerful, but also fragile like crystal about to shatter from its own perfection. Several Gil in the audience gasped. A woman at the bar started crying. Diana Ross stood up from her table. Michael continued singing, pouring everything into each word. The fear of Joe's belt, the weight of his brother's dreams, the desperation to be seen for who he really was, not just as the little one in the family group. His voice climbed higher, stronger, each note a declaration that he was more than what anyone thought possible. When he finished, the Blue Note was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. It was as if the entire room had been frozen by what they'd just witnessed. Then Diana Ross did something that had never happened in the history of the Blue Note, or any club she'd ever visited. She walked across the room, her heels clicking on the wooden floor in the silence. Every eye followed her as she approached the small corner stage where Michael stood trembling, unsure if he should run or stay. Diana stepped onto the small stage, and without saying a word, got down on her knees in front of Michael Jackson. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Diana Ross, the queen of Motown, was kneeling before a 10-year-old boy. "What's your name?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "And Michael Jackson." Diana's tears were flowing freely now. "Michael Jackson, I need you to listen to me very carefully. What you have is not talent. It's not a gift. It's something else entirely. I've heard every great singer of our time and none of them, not one, had what you just showed me." She stood up and took Michael's small hands in hers. "Who knows you're here?" "Just my mama," Michael whispered. "My father, he can't know. I understand," Diana said softly. She turned to address the room. "Everyone here tonight is going to keep a secret. This boy was never here. You never heard him sing. Because if word gets out before I can protect him properly, the wrong people will try to control what shouldn't be controlled." She turned back to Michael. "I'm going to make you a promise, and I need you to make me one in return. I promise that within 1 month, you'll be in Detroit, at Motown, with the full protection and support of the label. But you have to promise me something." Michael nodded eagerly. "Never let anyone, not your father, not Berry Gordy, not even me, never let anyone take away what I just heard. That pain, that truth, that raw beauty. They'll try to package it, smooth it out, make it more commercial. Don't let them. What you have is perfect because it's imperfect. It's human because it transcends humanity. Promise me." "I promise," Michael whispered. Diana reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. But instead of handing it to Michael, she did something strange. She tore it in half, giving Michael one piece. "This is my private number, but it's incomplete. Your mother will get the other half. When things get too hard, and they will get hard, when you feel like you're losing yourself, you call me, day or night. I'll remind you of this moment, of who you really are." Then Diana Ross did one more thing that changed everything. She took off her necklace, a simple gold chain with a small diamond pendant, and placed it around Michael's neck, tucking it under his shirt. "This was given to me by Billie Holiday when I was starting out," she said. "She told me it would protect the voice that needed protecting. Now it's yours." Marcus appeared at the edge of the stage. "Kid needs to go. Joe's shift ends in an hour." Diana nodded and helped Michael down from the stage. As he headed toward the service entrance, she called out one more time, "Michael Jackson!" He turned. "The world isn't ready for you yet. But it will be. And when it is, you're going to change everything." Michael ran all the way home, the necklace bouncing against his chest with every step. He slipped back into bed just as the first light of dawn was breaking through the window. Germaine stirred but didn't wake. Michael lay there, his heart still racing, the events of the night feeling like a dream except for the weight of the necklace against his skin. 3 weeks later, the Jackson 5 received an official invitation to audition for Motown. Joe was ecstatic, convinced his harsh discipline and relentless rehearsals had finally paid off. He never knew about Michael's night tape, the Blue Note. During the audition at Motown, Diana Ross acted as if she was seeing Michael for the first time. She played her part perfectly, expressing surprise and delight at discovering this new talent. But when Michael hit that same impossible note during Who's Loving You, their eyes met for just a moment, and he saw her touch her chest where her necklace used to rest. Berry Gordy signed the Jackson 5 on the spot, but he pulled Diana aside afterward. "That little one, Michael, there's something different about him." "Yes," Diana agreed. "There is. We need to develop him carefully. Maybe hold him back a bit. Let the older boys shine first." Diana's response was immediate and firm, something that surprised everyone who heard about it later. "No. Michael performs exactly as he is, or I walk." It was an ultimatum that shocked the Motown executives. Diana Ross, threatening to leave the label over an unknown 10-year-old boy. It was unheard of, but Diana knew what they didn't. She had witnessed something that night, at the Blue Note, that went beyond talent, beyond potential. She had seen a soul that was destined to transform the world, and she had made a promise to protect it. For the next several years, Diana became Michael's secret guardian at Motown. When producers tried to change his sound, she intervened. When Joe's discipline became too harsh, she provided refuge. When Michael felt lost in the machinery of fame, she reminded him of that night at the Blue Note. The necklace remained Michael's secret talisman throughout his career. He wore it under his costumes during every major performance, the Ed Sullivan Show, the Motown 25th anniversary, where he debuted the moonwalk, the first time he performed Thriller. It was there, hidden but present, a reminder of the night when Diana Ross recognized not just his talent, but his destiny. Years later, in what would be Diana's final major interview before her retirement, she finally revealed the truth about that night at the Blue Note. The interviewer asked her about her relationship with Michael, expecting the usual orally about the Jackson 5's discovery. Instead, Diana was quiet for a long moment, then said, "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" She proceeded to share the entire story, The secret performance, the kneeling, the necklace, the promise. When asked why she was revealing it now, after Michael's passing, she said, "Because the world needs to know that Michael Jackson wasn't created by Motown, or by Joe Jackson, or even by his own ambition. He was born exactly as he was meant to be. A voice that could touch the divine. All I did was recognize it and try to protect it for as long as I could." That night at the Blue Note, I didn't discover Michael Jackson. I witnessed a miracle, and every single person in that room knew it. The interview went viral, with millions of views within hours. Former patrons of the Blue Note began coming forward, confirming the story they had kept secret for decades. Marcus, Catherine's cousin, revealed that he had actually recorded Michael's performance that night on an old tape recorder he kept in the kitchen. When the recording was finally released 40 years after that October night, it became the most listened to piece of music in history. Not because it was perfect, the quality was poor, you could hear glasses clinking and people gasping, but because it captured the exact moment when the world's greatest entertainer revealed himself for the first time. But perhaps the most moving revelation came from Katherine Jackson herself. In her final interview, she admitted to helping Michael that night. "A mother knows," she said simply. "I knew what my baby had inside him, and I knew Joe would never understand it." That night at the Blue Note wasn't about defying Joe. It was about Michael meeting his destiny, and sometimes, a mother has to choose between protecting her child from the world and releasing them into it. That night I chose to release him, and Diana Ross was there to catch him. The Blue Note Club, which had closed in 1985, was turned into a museum. The small corner stage where Michael performed was preserved exactly as it was that night. Today, thousands of artists make pilgrimages there, standing on that tiny stage, trying to imagine what it must have felt like to be 10-year-old Michael Jackson, defying everything and everyone to share his gift with the world. And in the museum's most prized display case, returned by Michael's estate after his death, sits a simple gold chain with a small diamond pendant, the necklace that Diana Ross gave to a frightened 10-year-old boy who would become the king of pop. The inscription on the display reads, "Some voices are too powerful to be hidden. October 15th, 1968, the night the world changed, even if the world didn't know it yet." If this incredible story of destiny and discovery moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about the power of believing in yourself, even when it's taking the biggest risk of your life. What moment changed your destiny forever? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more untold stories about the King of Pop's journey to greatness.